Hello and welcome everyone. Danny Garola here with Stampin' the Pink Barn, coming to you from Tucson, Arizona. I have a fun technique that I would like to share with you guys today. This is one that you may have seen or you may not have seen. It is just a really fun background that will really bring life to a lot of your cards. So let's get into using this technique. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need a piece of your basic black. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut our basic white. You're going to want to cut a couple of your background layers here. So what I do is I just cut a couple of my 4 by 5 1/4, and I will just set these aside. Now this is what you're going to need to create your layer. So I have a couple of those just sitting here handy. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take this along with, now I have just brought in a piece of cardstock. Now this is just some cardstock that I have purchased off of Amazon. It is not pretty like our basic white. It is just some stuff that I have laying around for this very reason. If I want to bring in some die cutting to use as stencils, I just use a cheaper but thick. You don't want to use just straight copy paper. You want something thicker for this because you're going to use this over and over on your different cards here. So let me get into showing you what you're going to need. Now, if you know me, you know that I love my stylish shapes dies, and that is what I have used to create my template here that I need. So I have come in with a couple of my circles. So I have just used 3 circles here, and I have just cut them out randomly on this bigger piece. Now my normal layer is 4 by 5 1/4, so that is bigger than that. This is a 4 1/2 by 5 3/4. Doesn't matter the size, but as long as you have about an inch space in between each circle, that's what you're going to want to do. Now you are going to use this template over and over and over and over. It is going to get very loved. It is going to get very mucked up with different colors of ink, and that's a good thing. This is trash at the end of the day, but it's going to make very many backgrounds for you. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring in the fresh freesia for this. And I'm going to use, what was my other color? Fresh Freesia and Coastal Cabana for this card and to show you this technique. You may not have seen this technique, or you may have. If you haven't seen it, you're going to fall in love with it. Even if you have seen it, you know how fantastic this is and what beautiful cards that it creates. So I can't wait to share this with you. So let's dive right into this technique. So what we need to do is we're going to need to have a couple of our blending brushes here, which I have. Let's do my Fresh Freesia first. Doesn't really matter, but grabbing some Fresh Freesia ink, I'm just going to bring some of this ink just right around on here. Yeah, now, you know, I'm normally always telling you guys to make sure you brush off some of that ink first to get all those like smooshy marks off of there. With this technique, you don't need to, because we're going to be actually adding a layer over this that's going to make all of our colors blend nicely. And even though I am only using 2 colors of ink, you're going to see that with adding the two colors, you're actually going to get a third color that's going to blend in with this as these two colors are now going to mix. So now we're going to use Coastal Cabana and fill in those white spots with it. Now, do you see we are getting a different color of the combo of these two mixing? It's really kind of fun to see what colors you're going to get when the combo happens, when those two blend. And different colors will make different blending. So we just want to make sure we have all that white space covered with color. Okay, just like that. Now let's grab our other one, let that dry a minute. Now we're going to do Melon Mambo and Calypso Coral, just to show you another combo of colors here. But this one, I'm going to do more of a striped technique on it. After I stick my finger, I already have ink all over me from playing with this technique. Look how intense of a color that Melon Mambo is. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I just love it. And don't worry if you have more intense places than others. This actually adds a great effect to this technique. So don't stress if you have swishy marks on there or if you have more intense in certain spots. It's all going to work out nicely once we get this done. So here is our Calypso Coral. Okay, there we go. That is beautiful. Oh, I love those two colors together. Now it looks like a hot mess. I agree, but we are going to do some very, very fun stuff to this. We're going to bring our little circles back in, our little circle stencil that we've created. We are going to grab our white pigment ink. I'm going to add just a little bit more ink to this with my refill. So just taking it and rubbing this right across, waiting for some of that ink to come down. My ink must be cold this morning. Now, pigment ink is a very sticky ink. It does take a little bit longer to soak into the pad. And you do have to pretty much refill this pad every time you use it with this ink, because since it is a pigment ink, it does dry out faster than regular water ink that are in our other pads. So you can either take your bone folder and smush that in there. I'm just going to take my little brush here because that is what I'm going to be using for this ink anyways. So I would rather use that ink on my little brush and have it get swirled around and add ink to this as well. Okay, so now that I have some ink on my white brush from swirling it in, I'm going to bring in my little template here, and I'm going to use the big circle first and just add some of this ink on there. Look at that. Oh, this is the boho technique. So the way the boho technique works is it is a burst of light that a camera adds to a photo, and it almost looks like bubbles. And I don't know how exactly the process works. I'm not a photographer. I'm a card maker. But it is a technique that photographers can use to make different light happen in a camera, in their lenses. Okay, let's bring in a couple more. Now, you could tape this down. The only reason why I don't is because I like to not have the tape mark when I'm doing my circles. So that is the only reason why I'm not taping it down. You can, and then just go over that little spot where you've taped it, like I'll show you. Just so you're not getting it to shift around on you. I normally don't care because I'm moving it around too much anyways. But we'll just put a little bit of tape up there. Okay, now I'm coming in with my medium circle. Now, when I go to do this and I have that tape there, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Is when I go to swirl this on here, underneath that tape, there's going to be a part that doesn't get done. So when I know that I'm going up by the tape, I'm just going to pick that tape up, come back over this, hold this down, and go where that tape line was, because I don't want the line of the tape being left on my card. Okay, let's see. Let's do another one of these. And you really do want to overlap these circles. That's really kind of the whole process of the way this is supposed to look. So now coming in with my little circles. I like to get the big circles done first and then add little circles over the top. Okay, I think I like that, and I'm going to call that good. So I'm going to set that aside and let that dry. And as it dries, the intensities will mix and kind of not be so crazy, but isn't that gorgeous? That is that boho look. Now we're going to do a stamped sentiment on this to just make a very, very beautiful card. And I will bring this back, but let's go ahead and do our other one while that is drying. So what I like to do is I like to do all of my ink first, put my colored ink on, then come in and do all my boho, and then I can stamp my images how I want them on these different backgrounds. Or I can set these aside after I'm done and then bring these in at a later date when I need to make a card. I can go back and grab some of these and not have to do the whole process again and just have some of these background layers sitting around. Okay, now I'm going to come in with that medium circle there. All right, let's do some of our little circles. Soften these ones up a little bit. Okay. I think that looks good. I mean, you can go as crazy as you want, as light as you want. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Put the lid on this. Okay, set that one aside and let that one dry. Okay, I'm going to set my stencil. I just keep these in a drawer, so when I want to revisit this technique, I can absolutely do so. So I'm going to bring in the Heartfelt Hellos. This is a new celebrations item that we have going on right now. I'm going to do the Enjoy Your Day. I am going to bring in my Stamparatus because I do want to make a nice, dark, crisp, black stamped image to this. Where did I put my Stamparatus? Oh, it's behind me. Good place for it. All right, so I'm going to bring in this one here. Now this ink still is just a bit wet on here, but that's okay. You could take your heat tool and zap it with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a, that looks a little crooked. I'm going to just take a sentiment and just stamp on here with it. Just to do a very simple card and to show you that to really get the background look that we have just created, you can just take something as simple as a sentiment and put on here and make a gorgeous card. Now I just really want this black to be a crisp black, so that's why I'm doing it over and over a couple of times with my Stamparatus. Now I know we don't sell the Stamparatus anymore, but there are many other ones on the market. I know that there is one called the Misty. It's huge and it is a wonderful, wonderful tool. So you might want to look at that. Okay. So there is just a simple sentiment on our card. Now what we can do is I have a piece of basic black. This is 11 by 4 1/4. I've scored it at 5 1/2. That can be my card base. And now all I need to do is simply adhere this on there. And you are going to have a wow factor out of a card that when you give this to someone, they're going to ask you, is that DSP? I didn't see that on there. Where did you get that pattern paper? I love that. And you're going to say, well, I've created that myself. And then you're going to open up a whole new can of worms, because now they're going to want to know how you have created this. So you can use this technique as a teachable moment to teach your family and friends. And if you're a demonstrator, you can teach your customers how to do this, because they're going to have so much fun with this. They're going to want to start blending all their different colors, which is then going to want to get everybody to get more and more colors if they don't have their collection complete. So there is that one. Add some little gems to that to complete that, like I have done in this one here. So this one, all I have done is done 2 different mats behind it. So I did a black thinner mat behind it, and then did on a white card base using those same colors. This one has dried, so as you can see, as it dries, it kind of dulls out and does add a much better effect to this. This one is still wet, and that's why the intensity is so much stronger. But as it dries, that intensity will mild down, and you will really get a beautiful card out of this. So those are those 2. Then I want to bring in another one that I've created. I have done this one, and all I have used is the Lovely and Sweet stamp set, and I've just used that with the greens in the background. I have taken one of the sentiments, and I had done it in the gold emboss, and then I just fussy cut around that to make this more of a blingy kind of card. But I've used some greens here. I've used the and some yellows. I used Daffodil Delight with Old Olive with this, and then blended those colors together with that boho. Turned out beautiful. All right, now I was trying to kill time to let this dry, but now let's bring in this. What I'm going to do on this one is we need to bring our stamp back in. I am going to use the little sprig here. This is from where did I put the stamp set? I thought this was from our postage. Well, it is. It is from Painted Lavender. I am using this sprig right here on this card. And I'm going to lay this here. I think I'm going to flip this around, actually, like so. Okay, now let's see where we want this. I'm going to have this come right here. Okay, I'm going to stick an ink pad underneath here so I can get this inked up. I hope you guys are loving this technique, and it has now opened your eyes to a whole new way of bringing in some stamping and blending colors together. You're gonna go crazy on now grabbing so many different colors and trying this technique. And you really can't go wrong. I mean, everything is blendable.